Good afternoon, Ms. Mathis. Thank you for participating in EASMC's endorsement process. This interview will be recorded and posted to our website and to our YouTube channel. Please speak up clearly so that your answers can be heard when answering your questions. The educators for our purposes of this interview refer to all school employees. We may be making notes while you're speaking, but we are listening to your answers. I am Adrianne Mathis, a career advisor at the Chesapeake Public Charter School, the Virtual Academy, and our Forest Technology Center.
Jennifer Knight, kindergarten paraeducator, George Washington Carver Elementary.
Elaine Dean, special ed paraeducator at Leonardtown Middle School.
Alexis Broom, community school coordinator at Spring Ridge Middle School.
Katrina Mills, Film Service Manager at Spring Ridge Middle School.
Might I say thank you all for your service.
Thank you. Question 1. What are your priorities for the state budget, and what, if any, tax changes would you support?
My priorities for the state budget is that it's fully funded. Our budget, or as the state is balancing the budget, that they ensure that we are fully funded. When we get to a budget reconciliation and finance, that we won't use whatever, we're not able to, the state is not able to come up with to take away from our county and balance the budget on the backs of our educators. So that is my priority. And also my priority is to work hand in hand with MSEA and EASMC to make sure that we stay in connection, and I stay in connection to the issues at hand that are important to our teachers and our educators and our families, our students in the county.
Thank you.
What experiences or perspectives have shaped your views on public education?
3 experiences, initial experiences shaped my view on perspectives in the county or in public education. My experience as a student in St. Mary's County Public Schools. So my view was a student view. And my experience as an educator, teacher, assistant principal, and educational equity coordinator. And then my experience as a parent of students who are proud products of St. Mary's County Public Schools and one who's still in the school system. So for me, the experiences of all those 3 have made me invested and aware and empower me to fight for our teachers, our community, our students. So those are the experiences that are that shape my perspective.
What is your position on fully funding Maryland's education commitments under the Blueprint for Maryland's Future?
So I do understand that with the blueprint, the funding of the blueprint is responsible for the career ladder, is responsible for full-day pre-K, responsible for, with the comparable wages for pay equity. But it needs to be fully funded by 2027. I mean, it needs to be fully funded. And those gaps mean that the local, our county has to bridge the gaps, and that doesn't work. Because if you're going to fund, and you say you were, and that is our agreement, you need to make sure you fully fund it. I'd say yesterday, but 2027.
Thank you.
If the state faces budget shortfalls, how would you prioritize funding for public education compared to other areas?
Well, and facing the shortfalls, and I mentioned it just a little bit earlier, I mean, all roads lead to full funding to me, but I mean, I'm just gonna say that. And I'm gonna repeat myself, because that's really, like I said, at the top of my mind, and the goal is that we no longer need to be funding everything else on the backs of, you know, our hardworking teachers and all of our educators and support staff, ESP. But let me make sure I answered that question fully. Repeat that again to make sure that I...
Yeah. If the state faces budget shortfalls, how would you prioritize funding for public education compared to other areas?
I have to say I'm an educator, and it would be number one priority, only because it's the heart and lifeblood of everything. I know that I will be collaborating and fighting for everybody in the county, but my heart is with education, because I just feel like we've taken so many cuts, and we keep almost, it feels like begging, and it has been on several occasions, begging for the funding. And we need to keep that at the forefront of our minds, and I will work to make sure that happens, and collaborate with EASMC, collaborate with MSEA, collaborate with our Southern Maryland delegation, and not just collaborate. I would, you know, I have legislation that I would support and sponsor and write, so that we have these things, making sure that we take care of our own here.
Thank you.
What steps would you support to ensure schools serving higher need populations receive adequate resources?
So the schools that are serving higher populations, is that what you said?
Serving higher need populations.
Higher need. Okay. Well, fully funding means that we are taking care of and supporting our students in the way that we can make sure we're keeping our support staff, funding our support, you know, our ESP, support staff, making sure mental health is addressed, making sure that, because in some, and I stop myself, because it doesn't mean it's not happening in areas that are you know, that don't have as much need, but it usually, it's when you have the highest need, the staff seems to be a lot more, staff seems to be that there's not a lot of staff that can cover that need. And they work very hard, educators work very hard because we love children, we want to make sure they succeed. But it just feels like an overwhelming task. So embedding in the blueprint, not the blueprint, but in our foundational funding, there needs to be some embedment of the support for those schools in need, in those higher populations. there needs to be more partnership with some of those public service organizations and your public health, public safety, that would provide more wraparound services for those students. And we,
Thank you.
How should the state address growing behavioral and mental health needs among students?
well, we need to make sure that we're funding the resources so that the, those communities, communities here like in St. Mary's County, are able to meet the needs. I also feel like that there's a lack of resource countywide when we're thinking about people with mental health or that need the support in that area. So if we know that our students are struggling, and if we know they're struggling and we're struggling with resources, but we go outside of our school or our area and we still don't have those resources, that means that it needs to be heavily scrutinized. Somebody at the state level needs to be connecting with those departments, or making sure that funding is going where it should be, and following the funding all the way to the end of where it should be, and checking on and connecting. Most of what I'm talking about deals with, of course, children, but we cannot forget about outside of our schools where our communities are and our families are, where the children come from, and we need to make sure those resources are available to them.
Thank you.
What role do you see community schools and wraparound services playing in supporting student success?
It's a crucial role. If not the number one, especially when we think about federal funding and how we're stretched, or it's non-existent. I won't say non-existent. We know it's important. Federal funding is important, but we've been stretched with federal funding, and that role for community students and community schools and wraparound services is important, and that again speaks to again, more funding, making sure that and sustainable funding. And making sure, again, we're embedding the money, we're embedding that money in the foundation. It's got to be in the foundation. It cannot be, because if it's not, and we know what's happened when it hasn't been, oh, well, we have a little something on the side here, and we're just gonna not give that to you. We're going to take it and reallocate it someplace else. We can't afford to have anything reallocated to anywhere else other than where it should be going. And we can't afford to have, at the state level, thoughts of, well, it's a little bit, they don't need that. We'll take this over. No, we need every little bit, a penny. We need that we can take to make sure that that we get what we need and sustain it, so embed it in our foundation.
Thank you.
How should the state measure school success beyond standardized test scores?
Qualitative measurement, collaboration with our educators, there are multiple ways to assess a student. So you're looking at the whole child. You are making sure that that you're taking into account that that when you're looking at a test or an assessment, that there might be different levels of learning, and that might not be the best fit for learning. So I guess I would say that there is not just one way to look at how the performance or how a school or school system is performing, and just the assessment.
Thank you. Why should educators and school employees trust you to advocate for public education in the Maryland legislature?
They should trust me because I'm an educator. They should trust me because I'm a parent. They should trust me because in those roles, I have worked very hard to make sure that the voice was heard, making sure that I can only speak for, let's say, in a school that I was in, if I was listening and I was acting and advocating for every parent, every teacher, peers that I was working with, the community. And because of that, I see the community, as an educator, you see the community come to you through those doors. And you're able to see it from your perspective, but also have a lot of different perspectives from those important groups of people, like your bus drivers and your building service management, and I mentioned teachers, your counselors, and your social workers. So you take all of that into account. I have different perspectives, and those perspectives have led me to say, you know, I'm the person that can advocate for you because I am you.
Thank you. Many school systems struggle to recruit and retain education support professionals due to low wages and limited benefits. In addition to the ESP Bill of Rights, what policies would you support to address this issue?
Well, I believe that, again, even with the Bill of Rights, there are policies that I would support in making sure that the professional development was funded, making sure that, and again, in terms of policies, I may not specific policies, I'm just going to tell you what I feel like in terms of ESP. For ESP, and let's talk about bus drivers, you know, they're very, very dedicated people, and they need stability and sustainability. So whatever policy that's there that I can support in terms of legislation or even create, I would want to make sure that the funding supports those who are ESPs, and they have a living wage, and they're able to sustain, and that's not taken away, or the rug's not pulled out from under you. And you're respected, and you are professional, right? So if you're professional and respected, your voice needs to be heard as well. So part of the policy would be consulting and making sure that they know their voice is heard.
Thank you.
Thank you again for joining us today. Do you have any questions for us? No. These videos will be posted to YouTube and to our website when we conclude our process. Thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.